you got to fight for something. You know, you just can't go with the flow and allow for the status quo to be what it is, right? And there's a great book that I read called The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And it talks about people who have these bizarre ideas, and it eventually goes viral and it catches wind and people believe in it, and finally it works, right? And you look at anybody who came up with an invention, thought this idea here was cool, right? To do a podcast, right? Cool. Who would think a podcast would be the thing today, right? Or to even have social media. You know, I remember when social media first started, it was, you know, I'm taking it back prior to you guys, MySpace and Black Planet and all these platforms that were meetup spots, right? And people just met up online, but you didn't think like you could make money by having a profile and being an influencer. You know, what was an influencer?
It was a thing back then.
Influencers, there was no such thing. There was actors, there was athletes. Those were the influencers. There were politicians. But now a straight up social media influencer who's talking about whatever is now what catches wind, and then people listen to it. But I think that democracy does take courage. You have to be willing to stand up and fight. And you got to fight for the right cause, and you got to get into good trouble. You know, and sometimes the good trouble doesn't always pay off. You may not be popular at first, but you stood for what you believed in and you didn't compromise. And at the end of the day, it'll come to fruition that you'll get the results.
As the director of the Department of Recreation and a public servant with over 10 years of experience, this is a man that has a deep understanding of both our city and its residents. Please welcome Stanley J. Neron.
Thank you. How you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Really good.
Good. Thank you for having me here.
No problem. Actually, before, like 2 weeks before this even started, I'm pretty sure everybody here collectively agreed that your name is like probably top 10 coolest names.
Yeah, your last name, like when we first heard your last name, like we were like, we want to do.
Oh, that's cool. That's the first.
Like, because Tyler was talking to Julius about doing it, and he heard me talking about it because I think he put me with, so we could do it.
Nice.
We thought your name was very interesting, especially since the last part sounds like Neron.
Yeah.
I was kind of comparing it a little bit to Jimmy Neutron. Like,
yeah.
I was like, he got a cool last name, and I really want to interview him.
Cool.
So to kind of like kick it off and begin, for the people that are watching, do you kind of want to explain or like elaborate on what it is you actually do for being the director of the Department of Recreation? Do you want to elaborate like kind of what it is that you do as the director, and like what it is that you actually like do as that?
Absolutely. So I wear several hats. So I'm the director for the City of Elizabeth Recreation Department. I'm also president to the Elizabeth Board of Education, and most recently I was elected. I'm the Democratic nominee for Union County Commissioner. So I wear a bunch of hats. I also own a restaurant here locally in town, and I run a nonprofit called NJ for Haiti. So I've done a lot in the community. I've been working in city government in city of Elizabeth for the past 26 years. So it's been a long journey. I didn't start off as director of recreation. I actually started off as a part-time employee working as a youth coordinator in the city to coordinate after-school programs. And in doing so, throughout the years, my inspiration and my passion for community, the momentum kept building, and I continued to do more. So all my years at City Hall, I progressed, and went from being a youth coordinator to a supervisor to a program coordinator to the division head for the youth division to becoming the assistant director for health and human services. And then in 2019, I became the first Black director of recreation for the City of Elizabeth. And you guys asked, well, what does a recreation director do? Well, one of the things that we do, we have a huge summer youth employment program. We hired about 500 youth throughout the City of Elizabeth to create these experiences here.
Yeah.
And not only experiences here, but for many young people, it's their first time ever having a job. So we have a summer youth employment program. We have youth programs, sports programs, summer camps. We do special events. We do a huge 4th of July fireworks and food truck festival that garners about 25,000 people down to our Elizabeth waterfront. We do special events during the holidays. We do special events throughout the entire year, to really not only make sure that the city of Elizabeth is a great place to live, but it's a destination point as well. So we do that. We run rec centers. And that's my son in the background that you hear
Yeah.
having a good time.
Playing Sonic.
But he's playing Sonic and having a good time. We have rec centers. We have senior programs. We do wellness programs, fitness. We do job fairs, resource fairs. So there's a lot that we do in recreation. But one of the most, I think, the proudest moment for me in this city is being able to renovate the parks and really design parks, renovate parks, and really bring life to our communities. Because, when you have parks in your cities, they take a lot of maintenance. And over time, they become dilapidated, not because anybody doesn't care, but because it costs a lot of money. And, parks get a lot of wear and tear. And during COVID, we witnessed that it was instrumental that we had open space for not only residents, but, young people. There was a lot of stress, there was a lot of anxiety, and young people needed a lot of, open space and green spaces to really find a place of solace and peace. So we've been able to renovate a number of parks, create spray parks throughout the city. And, when I first got the job, I had gotten a call that one of our parks in the Eport section of town was in dire need of TLC, 1011 care. And they were like, can somebody do something? Playground equipment is all run down and, they don't have much here. So after a year or two, I did some research and I was able to find a grant. And the grant was able to bring everybody together, stakeholders, young people, the students, schools, nonprofits, to actually do, I don't know if you guys ever seen, This Old House, where people kind of, renovate the house in seconds you see the house go up.
Yeah,
and everybody comes together and builds it.
Yeah.
So this happened with this organization named Kaboom. So they gathered everybody in the community, got all the stakeholders together, and it took us 3 days to build this brand new playground, and it actually was the vision of the young people of what they wanted to see in their community, and it came to life. And that to me was a very proud moment.
Yes.
And it's one of the things that, you do when you have a career or you decide to have a career path. You not only want to, obviously everybody wants to get paid, right?
Yeah.
Money, you want to get a career where you're going to feel like you can make a living, but it's really about a passion, right? And if you have a passion, you can develop that passion to what you do every day. It's a tremendous thing. I think when I saw that happen, I saw this playground that was dilapidated come to life, and everybody from the kids to the families to the politicians to stakeholders to the sponsors, everybody's face lit up. This place was built.
Inspires you.
It's very inspiring.
So judging by that, it seems like you do a lot. So I wanted to ask you what an average day for you is like. Can you take us through what your day-to-day life is like?
Oh, wow. Okay. So my day-to-day life at work or just my whole being?
I guess it's like from the wake up.
Oh, from the wake up.
Through
Okay,
work.
so cool.
Right.
So I'm going to be very transparent, right? So I have a lot going on and I have a lot on my plate. And I was having sleepless nights, right? Where I was sleeping 3 hours a night, right? So sleeping 3 hours a night, getting up 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, get my son ready for school. My wife works really early, so I get my son ready for school. I wake up, meditate, do what I have to do, get myself ready. I get my son up, and then I get him ready and take him to school, right? That portion of my life right there is very hectic, right? Just to do that, I have a 7-year-old son. So, and then I start my day. Now, every day at my job I'm director of recreation, but I'm still a public servant. So when people come into City Hall, they look to everybody to do everything, right? And I'm talking about the public. The public doesn't necessarily categorize, well, you're the recreation director and you're the public works director or you're the BA or you're the mayor. They're like, whoever can help, I'm in crises and I need help, right? So they look for you to solve their problem. So every day brings on a new challenge. And I think because I've been at City Hall for 26 years, people look at me more as a person of the community versus my actual role in parks and recreation, right? They need a job, if they need to solve a problem they're having domestically, if they have a um, social service issue, what have you. We do a lot of human resources management, managing the employees that we have. We meet with engineers, we meet with architects, we go over designs, we go over drawings, we design programs. I meet with staff. I meet with directors. I obviously have to meet with the mayor. Mayor's my boss. Um, I meet with other politicians. I meet with other local officials, other nonprofit organizations to see how we can synergize and create programming for the city, but make the community, not only in Elizabeth, but in Union County, better.
So being that you brought that up, or being that O'Neal kind of like asked that question, I kind of have this idea, like we kind of already figured that you were a very eventful, very busy man, like most of the time. We actually are familiar with the Department of Recreation. So because we get our checks from the city hall, and
Sure.
yeah. So for us, that process in itself, it's like a very
Intense process.
yeah, very intense, jarring process.
Yeah.
So for you, like we'd assume that it's for you guys, it's even like
Oh yeah.
it's even more of a struggle.
tenfold.
So how would you say you keep yourself grounded in a situation like that, or how do you say you keep yourself grounded in your day-to-day life?
Great.
Dealing
That's a
with
great
things?
segue because I brought something up. I said I was only sleeping 3 hours, so I had to correct that. So I changed my sleeping habits because sleep is very important. And I'm talking to everybody here.
Yeah, very
Right?
important.
So everybody has to sleep. You got to get your rest, because if you're no good to yourself, you can't be good to anybody else, right? And that's so vital that you do self-care and you manage yourself. If you can do that, then all the stresses and the challenges that you conquer, that you face in life, you'll be able to conquer, right? So one would say, so payday just passed or was coming up, and I had to say to myself, we got to make sure that 500 young people get their checks on time and they have the right amount and everything's okay and everything. So it's a lot of communication, a lot of meeting, and you had to be organized, but you can't let, if something goes wrong, it goes wrong, right? Nobody's perfect. Things happen. But we do our very best to make sure our processes are in place and that everybody's doing what they have to do. And see, unfortunately, oftentimes when we sit as an entity, so people will look at us as City Hall, right? And they'll say City Hall messed up, or City Hall did this, or City Hall did that. Or for the board, they'll say the board did this, the board did that. And everybody, those entities become like the big bad wolf.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times constituents and people who are either working for an institution don't understand the institution. They don't understand process. So everybody has to work together to make it successful. And that's what people have to understand. And, that's what I understand. And I also understand that everything's going to fall in place. You just can't panic.
Yeah, take your
Right?
time.
You can't panic. You can't, freak out over, complaints coming in or issues happening. A lot of it is all about communication and misunderstandings. And when you management has its challenges, right? And somebody once asked me a question. They were looking to become an entrepreneur. They said, well, what's hard? I said, what's hard? Everybody out there getting up in the morning, is it hard?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just getting up in the morning is hard. So making a decision is hard. Everything is hard in life. There's a challenge in everything that you do, right? And because you have to make a choice. And sometimes that can be difficult. So you just got to understand there's always going to be a challenge. And you always have to rise above the emotions, rise above the situation, and master yourself. Once you've mastered yourself, you can handle any situation. So, when I mentioned getting to sleep, that's also getting the proper mental health, right? So I'm very transparent. I always tell people, look, I see 3 counselors, right, for my mental health. And it's not because anything's necessarily wrong with me or I'm going through something, but it's to keep me sharp, because you get to a point in your life and your career where you may have accomplished a lot, or maybe you haven't accomplished anything at all, but you want to get there, right? If you're very accomplished, you want to make sure you stay on top of your game. So you always got to learn the new tricks of the trade. You always got to find new methods as to how you're going to manage yourself, your state of mind, your well-being, your spirituality, and being humble. And that's so important. And if you haven't made it yet, you want to find out how to get there. So you want to find out what kind of homework you have to do for yourself to get to a point where you're going to succeed and be successful.
Was there ever a point in time where you felt like it was too much, or was there ever a point in time specifically in your career where maybe there was like a day where you went out that morning and you kind of told yourself like, I can't do this today, or you just felt as if, there was a lot weighing on your shoulders in that moment?
Sure. That happened a lot of times. There's been a lot of peaks and valleys in my journey. My journey started when I was so I'm going to take you back to high school. So 16 years old, I grew up at Oakwood Plaza, Pierce Manor for many. If anybody's familiar with Elizabeth, that's on the north end. And I was almost murdered when I was 16 years old. So I would say I spent a couple of days out of school, and I didn't really want to snitch on the person that almost took me out, right? I regret that moment, but, God does everything for a reason and a time, because, it was a very traumatic moment in my life. The following year, I decided I wanted to go to college, and I always wanted to go to college. My parents always wanted me to go to college. And my guidance counselor looked at me and looked at what happened my junior year, not knowing what happened, but she saw that my grades dipped. She said, well, chances of you going to college is probably unlikely. So you have paramechanics on your schedule. You should probably do something with your hands and decide to go to trade school. But college probably isn't for you. So that was the longest walk home. So you want to talk about you leave your house and you think sky's the limit. Took this long walk home, and I come from a Caribbean background. My family's from Haiti, and they always instilled in me, you're going to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. There's these three things they wanted me to be. A lot of Caribbean households, and a lot of households are like that. They'll say to you, this is what we want you to be, right? And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to tell my mother and father that I'm not going to go to college and not going to accomplish this goal that they have for me, right? And but the key thing about this is be mindful of the company that you keep, right? The company that you keep can define your outcome, right? Because some people are told that and they just give up. Other people are told that and it motivates them to do better. And if they have a circle of people around them, I believe iron sharpens iron. When you put good people around you, you make each other better, right?
Yeah.
So if you have people around you that are going to lift you up and they're going to speak life over you, it'll change your whole situation. And that's what I had around me. I had a group of friends that were going to lift me up, have me rise above the situation, and told me not to give up. Just keep going, keep trying, and try to find alternatives of how I was going to go to college. So what I did was I went back to the guidance counselor's office and I asked her, hey, I asked the counselor, I said, is my counselor? And she's like, no, your counselor's out. She's going to be out for the next 3 months. But what do you need, young man? I said, I want to go to college. She said, oh, that's no problem. I said, yeah, but guidance counselor said, I can't go to college. She said, that's nonsense. You apply to any school you want to go to. And I did. And I got accepted to Kane University, was the first school to call me. And I didn't look back. As soon as I had that interview, they accepted me. My guidance counselor at the time said to me, young man, you have a bright future. You're going to be mayor of your city one day. And I was like, I don't know what this lady's talking about. I'm not into politics, don't care for politics, but I do want to change my community. I was like, look, I'm just happy to make it to Kane, and I'm happy to be here. Come to find out, I get accepted to all 8 schools that I applied to. So, you never take no for an answer, but if I didn't have that circle around me, I don't believe I would have made it. So I think, to answer the question, yes, there's plenty bad days that happen, but the people that you have around you, the type of environment and the mindset that you have, you got to keep motivating yourself. Because there's always going to be bad days, and there's always going to be days where you're feeling like, I don't see light at the end of the tunnel, and fortunately for a lot of us, we have a good corner that we can refer to, or we've established our mental health so that we can continually raise ourselves up, and the catch to that story. So I told you that I regretted not reporting the gentleman who attempted on my life. He ended up murdering somebody else, not shortly thereafter, and I can't take the blame for it, but I do say, could I have made a difference?
Yeah.
And that I think put me on a path to be passionate about making impact in our community and making changes day in and day out.
I can kind of relate to that as an artist, and I say that because there was a point in time where, still, I want to apply to Kane as well, and even prior to that, I tried applying to Kane, and I got a letter that was basically saying like I got accepted into the program, but I didn't get accepted into the school itself. And I was told that it would be better if I like started to do community college. And a lot of the times when I was in because I grew up around a lot of strong. I don't know how to put it. I guess they're really voted people towards. They're really straightforward. They're very straightforward. So in the sense that like
They tell you like it is.
yeah, they tell me how it is. They're very blunt. So
Yeah.
when I told people that like I wanted to draw, I wanted to be an artist, a lot of the things that I heard even from people like outside of my family that weren't even like family members, they would tell me things like, "Oh, is that gonna put money? Is that gonna put money in your pocket? Is that gonna put food on the table?" And they would tell me that art isn't a stable career to look at. Like they would tell me things like, "Oh, drawing isn't really gonna keep you stable in the future. It's not gonna pay your rent." They would tell me things like that, and it really demoted me, or it really made me feel
It demoralized you.
yeah, it demoralized me because it really made me feel that I really didn't have any other talents besides drawing, and I couldn't really improve on myself because the one thing that I did like, they were telling me that I couldn't do it, and it eventually got to a point where, um, because I'm also a writer, I like writing as well. It got to a point where it took me away from all my hobbies, like such as like reading different comics like manga, um watching shows, playing games. Like it took me away from a lot that I like right now, because it just made me feel like I wasn't good at anything. And at a certain point I remember my sister, because my sister has always been this super kind, she like spoils me basically. um there was this one time I visited her in Virginia with her and my niece and her husband, or not her husband, but her spouse. And I'm sitting in the living room, and she comes up to me, and I think I was drawing something that day. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but I think I was drawing one of my characters. And she looked at it and she was like, "Oh, like who is that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's just like an original character that I came up with. It's like a part of a story." And she's like, "Oh, like it's a part of a story. What story are you writing?" And I was like, "Oh, it's this series called Eternal. It's not finished yet, but me and my friend are working on it." She was like, "Really?" She was like, "Do you have anything written right now?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I mean, it's not finished, but like I got like a chapter or two out. They're not really out, but I got them written." And she's like, "Can I read it?" And I show her the story. And the one thing that she said to me that really stuck out to me was she read it, and she looked at the drawing, and she was like, "You can really do something with it." And I'm like sitting there like, but everybody was telling me like this isn't really, I can't like.
Well, I think one of the things, and I heard a lot of that in my life as
Yeah.
well. So how I painted the picture for you of what my parents wanted for me, right? They wanted me to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. Well,
Yeah.
I ended up in the entertainment industry, working with artists.
Yeah.
That's where I started, right? And that's not what they wanted. And they said, "What are you going to do, being an artist, right?" Then I become a politician. They're like, "Well, what are you going to do doing that? How are you going to make money?" And at the end of the day, you follow your passion, and your passion will eventually grow and develop, right? But at the end of the day, we also have to be smart about how we make a living, right? And it's a balancing act, right? It's pursuing your passions and also making a living, right? So there's alternatives as to what you can do. Like you can teach and still be a writer, right? You can teach and still be an artist. You can teach and still pursue your dreams to run your own comic book line and so forth and so on. And so, the sky's the limit, right? Or you can also be a filmmaker, or you can also be an actor. I mean, there's so many alternatives as to how you can make money and still pursue those passions that you have. And what I always tell people is don't kill people's dreams. People bring the craziest ideas to me, and I say, all right, not telling you don't do it. Pursue it, right? But at the same time, make sure you feed yourself, make sure you take care of yourself, and make sure you can pay the bills, and that's up to you. You got to figure that out, but it's not that it can't make money, because we know billionaire artists, billionaire comic books, we know millionaire actors, and the sky's the limit when it comes to the creative world.
Yeah, I kind of feel as you is, but I kind of like throughout my life I've never really had a passion for anything. So like even to this point, like I go to college for engineering, but I still don't know exactly what I want to do in life. And I kind of wanted to ask you, like, how do you find a motivation, or how do you find a passion something to keep going in life.
So the passion is a compassion that you have for something, right? It is a love and a desire that you want to make an impact on whatever that is. You know, it could be a cause in society. It could be something you want to fix. It could be the smallest thing that you don't realize. I love doing this. Like, I believe you love doing what you're doing right now.
Of course.
You know, that's your passion.
Even though I'm a little nervous, but I still like being up here and speaking.
You like being up here. This is your passion,
Yeah.
right? You say you're not passionate, but you are. You like this, right? The fact that you like this, you could still be an engineer and do this, right? Because you could talk about how to be influential in the world of engineering, how to follow your path, how to get into the arts, how to be a public speaker, you know, because you're in front of the people talking. So, and it's what we call a side hustle, right? It could be a side hustle. It could be the main hustle. It could be an alternative career. It could be your second career, right? You're going to be an engineer because, you know, I don't know what kind of engineer, but that's going to make you money one day.
Yeah.
Right? This right here is what you love. So you're going to come here and you're going to do it.
I'm having fun with it.
And have fun with it. And it doesn't matter. But then it goes viral. You follow me? Then it goes viral and it becomes the main thing, right? So the engineer becomes who you really are, or what you studied to do, but this is who you really are.
This is who I am.
Yeah, this is who you are, right? And that develops. And I think for me, causes, you know, I'm a humanitarian. So because I'm a humanitarian, I believe in helping people, right? And in helping people, I've helped people in the entertainment industry. I've helped people in government. I've helped people in society. I've helped people in other countries. And I've always believed in that. And that manifests in so many different ways, because it manifests in me becoming a mentor. It manifests in me helping large, impoverished communities. It manifests in me impacting thousands of lives here in the city of Elizabeth. It manifests with me mentoring young college students. And again, it wasn't a career that I checked off and said, hey, I want to be this guy that helps people. There's no name, real name for that, right? Outside of being a mentor and an educator, you know, it's just a passion that I had and I pursued it.
Yeah.
You know, but even in owning a restaurant, I love to make people feel good, right? So people come and eat and they love the food and they enjoy the experience. That's a thrill for me, right? And that's a passion that I have, because now I'm fulfilling a need that somebody may have. I'm fulfilling a mission to make impact and providing not only a good service, but also celebrating a culture, you know, of food and cuisine and art and music. So it's something that I think that we got to follow our heart. You know when it's right.
Yeah.
You know, it's just this feeling you get inside of you. It's a burning desire that you want to jump out of bed and do it every day.
Yeah, you could tell at one point, like, I want to keep doing this for the rest of my life.
And when you realize that, you never have to work again, right? Because you've discovered your passion.
Yeah, and you enjoy your work.
Yeah.
So like going over that, or like going back to that, as a young person, was there anybody that ever influenced you, or like anybody above you that you thought had a very huge impact or big impact on things that you do now currently? Like, do you think anybody influenced your decisions on being who you are today?
I say my parents. The reason why I picked my parents above all, because I think I never wanted to disappoint them. And that was my drive, right? That's what kept me off the streets. That's what kept me bouncing back up every time I fell. I got back up because I wanted to make my parents proud. And I tell anybody I get the chance to tell this to, I said, you know, I remember watching my parents trying to figure out the bills at the kitchen table and stressing over it. And at an early age, I said, I want to help with that. I want to make sure they don't ever have to stress again, you know? And I think that the fact that they worked hard, they never missed a payment, they never missed a bill, they owned no credit cards, and they just paid everything cash, and they made sure that they worked really hard every day. Clearly, you know, I think as I've grown, and they've been blessed to have me and my brother who learned how to not work as hard, but work smarter. But you know, it was a grind that we respected and we saw, and we said, you know what, we want to make sure that one day we can take care of them. And we're blessed to say that we're doing that today. We're taking care of our parents. But, you know, that was the big influence over my life. And then I had a lot of great mentors that came into my life that were influential in various different industries. you know, from the entertainment industry. When I was in college, I always had a mentor, and I always had somebody that I could speak to, an administrator or teacher, that was either a father figure or another mother figure to me that showed me another perspective in life. And I've always been able to gravitate to somebody that was doing something great. And I said, wow, you know, I really like what they're doing. I just want to be close to them and find out what's important. Because, you know, one of the things that I think, you know, me and Adler were talking about this before the show, you got to seize the moment, right? And when you're young and you're 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, you know, in those very pivotal stages of your life, sometimes you think you got forever, right? And sometimes you look at it and you say, well, I get to see this person again. I don't need to ask the question now, or I'll connect with them later, whatever. You never know. Tomorrow's not promised, right? And opportunities come. There's a small window of opportunity when it comes, and you got to jump through it as soon as it comes.
Just take it.
You just got to take it. You got to ask the question. You can't assume, and you just got to go through it, right? And building your network is so important, right? So making sure that you put the right people in your network, you know, because you don't want to put people in your network that's going to consistently drain you, you know, and you don't want to drain anybody. You want to be able to build people up. You want people to build you up. So you got to make sure the people you put in your network are going to speak life into you and not death.
So how do you go about finding like that group of people and networking like that?
It's organic. You draw the energy to you.
They just comes to you?
I mean, you have to have the energy, a positive energy about you, and an energy that people see that you're really serious about what you're doing, you're passionate about what you're doing, and you lead with love, right? When you lead with love, and this goes back to the compassion I talk about, that means you don't hate on the next man because they're doing something.
Yeah.
You know, you celebrate them, right? And the fact that people see you celebrating people and they see that you're happy for somebody's win makes you attractive. The fact that you can smile makes you attractive, and you draw that energy.
You draw that energy, and it's positive.
You draw that energy to you. You know, kind of like how you guys welcomed me today, right? Everybody had the best energy. You know, it was. I mean, I've been around a lot of young people. You guys had amazing energy.
Thank you.
And everybody was very welcoming, and was embracing to me being here. So I respect that, and I love it, and I thank you for it.
Of course.
That actually reminds me of this show that I watch, and one of the quotes in the show, or it's not really a quote. I'd say it's more of kind of like a speech, but the show always starts off with talking about the law of an equivalent exchange, and how you have to give something by getting something in return. You have to give something.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of what you just said on how you kind of attract that energy naturally once you put out that energy and give it to other people. Once people start to see that you're positive, if you give out positive energy and you're going around giving out smiles, you're gonna get that in return.
Absolutely.
And I definitely understand that. I definitely come to that, especially in the sense that once you're giving out or putting out negative energy, sometimes you may attract the wrong crowd. But it always depends on what you're putting out as a person and giving out yourself. And yeah.
And that's why mental health is so important, because the power of the mind is incredible. So so a man thinketh, so a man do, right? And it becomes your reality. How you envision yourself is what you actually become. And I'm a living proof of this. You know, I have had thoughts that either led me down the wrong path or the right path. Everything I decided I was going to do in my life, I've accomplished. It may not have happened when I want it to happen,
But eventually,
it happens exactly how I painted it to happen.
you manifested it.
You manifest it. And we really can't underestimate our inner power and our inner self and the power of the mind. You can create your reality. You are the author of your life, believe it or not. And oftentimes we're waiting for this big thing to pop out of the sky and land on our laps. It's not landing, guys. It's not going to show up.
You got to work for it.
You got to work for it, and you have to manifest it with how you think, how you believe in yourself, and the grind that you have. Because if you don't love yourself, nobody else can. If you're not confident about yourself, nobody else can make you feel confident. They can give you all the compliments you want. Right after that dopamine has expired and you walk out that door, you're back in the same predicament. So you have to keep motivating yourself, and you got to keep believing in yourself and loving yourself, you know? And that may take work. It doesn't come easy, you know, because we live in a world that negativity, it weighs more than positivity for us, right? As soon as you hear something negative about somebody, think about it. I had a comedian friend of mine pass away. Right, he just died, had a cardiac arrest. And it's we have this thing where before he passed, he has a comedy club that he opened up, and he was trying to get people to come to his comedy club.
Yeah.
And he kept promoting and promoting and promoting, and every week it was like hit or miss, hit or miss, hit or miss. And he had a big roast that he was working on, And the big roast, he was trying to get comedians to come. So comedians are like, I don't know if I'm going to come, if I'm going to make it. And this guy's very influential in the game. So he was struggling to pull this show together. So out of nowhere, 2 days before his birthday in the roast, he passed away. He has a cardiac arrest. Literally, his club had lines around the corner of people trying to get in to pay tribute to him in his memorial. But when the man was alive, nobody was coming to this venue like that, right?
So they kind of switched up.
Well, no, it takes something negative to happen for people to gravitate to it, right? So if you commit a crime, like we're doing this here today, nobody's talking about us. But if one of us commit a crime, everybody would be talking about us. Everybody would know where you live, who you are, how old you are, when you were born, who your mother is, who your father is, your cousin, who your friends are. Everybody knows this, and they would celebrate that. But when we're doing positive things, I've had a restaurant for 12 years. People have no idea that I have a restaurant. Not because I haven't promoted it, because it's not newsworthy. People believe in sensationalism, right? And that's society, So they gravitate to things that are sensationalized, that have controversy. But if you're doing something good, people are like, it's nice, until something goes wrong, and they're like, oh my God, it becomes dramatized.
Yeah,
and it's not all negative, but I mean, it's just, the good news takes a long time to spread.
Yeah, they pay more attention to the negative than the positive.
Absolutely.
There was actually a recent case of that with a popular content creator that goes by the name of
Mm-hmm.
And I want to compare that because there was this a point in time where he did a charity water stream, and he was literally raising money to donate water to like way out like continents and countries, like giving water to all like the thirsty kids that are like starving.
Yeah.
And nobody really talked that much about it.
Nope.
Yeah.
But he had these recent they were these allegations from his ex-girlfriend, and it turns out like, bro, they like completely debunked them in like under 24 hours. But while they were alive, everyone was talking about it, and it kind of just like it was ringing in my head. It's like nobody even talked about the water stream. Like, he raised all this money. There were people in his chat, other popular content creators giving out like $2,000, $10,000, just donating to that stream to raise charity for water. And it was like a really special thing for him to do. But they only started talking that much about him like as soon as they found out that he had some like allegations under his belt.
Yeah, like it was all over the place. Yeah. But they never mentioned the good stuff.
They never mentioned what the good that you do.
Yeah.
And it's the minute you do something wrong, now everybody knows your name.
Yeah. With that being said, I kind of want to shift a little bit and talk about you a little bit more culturally. You're the first Haitian American to be a part of the General Assembly. You want to kind of tell me what that moment meant to you and how you felt about it?
Well, I'm not. So I am on the new. I just recently got elected to become. A lot of people think that, by the way. So it's not just you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody thinks I got elected to assembly. I would be if I got elected. So from your lips to God's ears, right? So, but I got elected to become Union County Commissioner. The person who I'm replacing ran for assembly.
I see.
And that's how that happened. So it would have made me the first Haitian American if I ran for assembly. But I am the first Haitian American male to become Union County Commissioner. And that's a big deal. And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to working with 21 municipalities here in Union County and advocating for, quality of life. We have to really work on the cost of living. Got to make sure that we keep our parks and our facilities throughout the county up to par and constantly innovative. We have there was a big controversial topic on the table about ICE coming into town and purchasing the old Union County Jail.
Really?
Most recently, the county voted that down, and that's not going to happen. So we don't have to worry about an ICE jail coming to the city of Elizabeth. as a county commissioner, a lot of people don't know what a county commissioner does, but we oversee social services, senior services, special needs throughout the county. So what is social service? Housing, SNAP benefits, homeless shelters. We support, people living under their means and try to do job placement. We work with people with mental health issues. We facilitate the parks, the county police, the county courts, the surrogate's office. We had the county jail. So a lot of county services that you hear throughout the 21 municipalities the county handles.
And was that like a very special moment for you when you when it did happen? Like, did you?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's it's one of those things that, you fight for it and then it happens and you're like, wow, like, I made it this far,
Yeah,
right?
can't believe it.
And I think the biggest one for me was when I got elected to the Board of Ed. So I was elected on the Board of Ed 12 years ago. And that was a huge accomplishment, because I had run before in 2009 after I worked on the Obama campaign. I was inspired. And after watching President Obama become the first Black president of the United States, I said, wow, I could run in my community. And I saw how to do it because, we ran a campaign for him here in Jersey and in Elizabeth. And I had worked on several campaigns, even Mayor Bowe's campaign, who's been actually in office now 32 years. I worked on his very first campaign when he first got elected, 32 years ago. And I understood campaigns very well. So when I always tell people, you're going to get knocked down, you got to get back up, right? And I ran 2009. I lost by 200 votes. Huge accomplishment, by the way, because my opponents had millions of dollars. I raised about $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
They had millions of dollars. So for the margin to only be 200 was a big deal.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
So at the time, I think people saw that I had a future, I had potential, and that one day I would, eventually be sitting where I'm sitting today. And when I did run, I became the highest vote getter, and I got elected in 2013 and took office in 2014. And now I've been president twice. And I'm leaving as president to move on to become Union County Commissioner.
Wow, congratulations!
Very impressive.
I kind of want to talk about like what you or like your peers that like you worked with, or the different people that you've been with within that like jurisdiction. Like, do you think any of them have kind of have the same mindset or kind of like build off the same principles that you believe in? Like, do you think?
I think so. I mean, like I said, iron sharpens iron. I tend to keep a network of people around me that are like-minded.
Yeah.
So most people are of the same mindset and have the same aspirations that I have, as far as their vision for community, their vision for our community, their vision for this city, and in general, because we don't only make impact here in the city of Elizabeth, but I think nationally, we try to create impact, and internationally. So you asked me a cultural question as far as early on about being the first Haitian elected. So as a Haitian American elected official, I belong to a network called the National Haitian Elected Officials. And in 2010, there was about, I would say, maybe 10 elected officials nationally. Now there's about 226 elected officials nationally that are of Haitian descent that kind of network to really help Haiti. So we network as elected officials here to help influence policy in Haiti. So that's another network that I belong to that, very like-minded and that thrive to helping Haiti have a better day. And, we're the future of Haiti, because people look to us since we're American elected, that we can be future leaders of also helping not only the diaspora, but, our homeland back home.
How do you feel? How do you think your culture itself, like how do you think people of your family feel about what you're doing for?
Oh, they're very proud. They're very proud. They are inspired. They are, they're proud. They're. I think I motivate them. They motivate me to keep going. And I think we as a Haitian community, we need the hope for our country back in Haiti, because Haiti's under a lot of turmoil right now.
Yeah.
And it's been through a lot, from natural disasters to to famine, to poverty, to political turmoil, to just melee. In 2010, I started the organization NJ for Haiti, and it was for, similar to the influencer. We were doing water purification in Haiti, helping thousands out in villages that were impacted by the earthquake, because over 250,000 people lost their lives. So we made it our mission to go back to Haiti the first 6 months, every month, in some cases twice a month, to provide food, to provide resources, to provide medicine. And we did that, and we're still doing that. And my last trip there, since prior to the gang takeover, was 2023, where we went into hospitals and we housed the hospitals with beds and mattresses in one of the hospitals up north.
I like to say that as a African American myself, there's a lot that I like to do for like my community, or like if I could contribute to like things that might like help out my community or build up my community, because I see there is a lot of turmoil in the Black community as well, like just certain things that a lot of people like talk about online or like over the internet. I see that there's a lot of like trouble being brought up, especially between like the groups themselves, like our demographic itself. There's like turmoil between them.
Yeah, it feels very divided.
Yeah, it feels very divided.
You're talking about amongst African American and Haitian communities and other people of color.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that that divide has always been there. It's by design, unfortunately, and there's a lack of education. When I say lack of education, I think we all need to do our history and understand that, we all have a lot of commonalities. Even if you're not Black, you have a lot of commonalities with a lot of different cultures. And we should be looking to come together on our common grounds rather than focus on our differences. There's a lot of turmoil on the island of Hispaniola between my Dominican brothers and my Haitian brothers that shouldn't exist, because it's all one island, right? It's all one island. The people on both sides of the island are identical. So, when you go to Haiti, it's a very diverse place. DR is a very diverse place. It's the same dynamic, and I don't think the two cultures and the people, it's what's popular, right? They follow whatever's negative. They don't follow the positive. I think in the America, look at what plagues the African American community, Black community in general. We all suffer from the same things. We're dealing with oppression. We're dealing with racism. We're dealing with a lack of equity in our schools. We're dealing with a lack of, we're already judged before we walk through the door, because they see your name, they see what you look like, they hear about you, and they're like, okay, well, the person most likely will be X, Y, Z. Like the example I gave you about what happened to me wanting to go to college, right? So when they told me do something with my hands and, you're not college material, they said the same thing to Malcolm X, and I read that in the autobiography of Malcolm X. His guys kind of said, you couldn't go to college, you're not college material, do something with your hands. And the same thing that was told to me some 40 years later to me, which was bizarre, and I said, wow, they said the same thing to Malcolm. So I've always looked at the problems of the African American community as my problem, because my son will be an African American, right? My parents come from Haiti, but when they see my son, he's going to be far removed from Haitian culture. Not that he doesn't have Haitian culture in his roots, but society will look at him as a Black man in America, right? So we have to understand what our common ground is, and we have to embrace our brothers and sisters and make sure that we unite to address a common cause that we're plagued with. And whether that is oppression, racism, education, whatever those issues are, we got to stand and fight, because I believe that I represent the people, and I've always stood for the people.
I definitely agree, because I come from Dominican Republic. I was born and raised there, and I have a lot of Haitian family members too. And I've lived there for a while, and I've always seen the disconnect between them. It's like hate amongst them. And I never liked it, because I don't see a point of it. Like, we're all the same. We should all like unite together.
Yeah, sure.
And I hope like one day in the future, then we can come together and resolve our issues. Because
I think it lies in our hands, right?
Yeah, it depends on us.
I think we have the power to do that. And I think if we're synergizing throughout the diaspora, around the world, and here in America, we can show them something, and I think we need to lead by example here. When people see those coalitions being built here, I think the mindset will start to change. And it's about also educating people about people, right? And understand the stereotypes that you have about people are false narratives, that people create to keep you divided. Because see, it's a powerful thing when we all as people can come together, right? And when we all come together, sky's the limit, and you can't stop a movement when there's a movement that begins.
Yeah.
And we kind of see that happening in New York with Mondani getting elected, right? It's a movement. It's not typical. It's not what was written. It's not what people expected, but it's a movement because people of all races are coming together saying, hey, we want something different, and that's what you see happening right now.
And with that being said, we have a saying, democracy takes courage. What exactly do you think that means to you? Or what would you say attach that meaning to? How you feel democracy takes courage actually builds upon?
If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
That's what that means to me, right? So I answer that with another saying, right? You got to stand for something, you got to believe in something, and you have to be consistent in your character. So you have to, you got to fight for something. You just can't go with the flow and allow for the status quo to be what it is, right? And there's a great book that I read called The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And it talks about people who have these bizarre ideas, and it eventually goes viral and it catches wind and people believe in it, and finally it works, right? And you look at anybody who came up with an invention, thought this idea here was cool, right? To do a podcast, right?
Cool.
Who would think a podcast would be the thing today, right? Or to even have social media. I remember when social media first started, it was, I'm taking it back prior to you guys, MySpace and Black Planet and all these platforms that were meetup spots, right? And people just met up online, but you didn't think like you could make money by having a profile and being an influencer. What was an influencer?
It wasn't a thing back then.
Influencers, there was no such thing. It was actors. It was athletes. Those were the influencers. They were politicians. But now a straight up social media influencer who's talking about whatever is now what catches wind, and then people listen to it. But I think that democracy does take courage. You have to be willing to stand up and fight. And you got to fight for the right cause, and you got to get into good trouble. And sometimes the good trouble doesn't always pay off. You may not be popular at first, but you stood for what you believed in and you didn't compromise. And at the end of the day, it'll come to fruition that you'll get the results.
So going back to what you said earlier about like your Haitian divide amongst the people in Haitian communities and Black communities, how do you think your family and your people like your son and just your community in general can stay connected to their roots?
Well, I think that it's all about education, right? We have a responsibility as the elders, as the parents, as the relatives, to constantly keep educating them and making sure they know where they come from and who they are. We have to be pride. We have to have pride in our culture, and you have to educate your children. You have to educate your friends on what that means. When we talk about Haiti, Haiti is significant to the world because it's the first free, independent Black nation in the Western Hemisphere. The island of Hispaniola, that is, right? Because the island of Hispaniola, if you know the history, you know that slaves were brought there through Christopher Columbus, and they were then they kept bringing in slaves, and the whole entire island was one side was established by the French, and the other side was established by the Spanish, right? And African slaves took over and rid the entire country of enslavement, and that was a major victory not only for the Caribbean but also for the United States, because then those troops came over to the United States and they helped fight the battles. And not only that, the fact that the French had to leave Haiti, it helped create the Louisiana Purchase here in the United States. So not understanding that, Haiti provided more economic stability than the 13 colonies did to England at the time. So people don't understand that history, and they don't understand that culture. And when Haiti was freed, it was free Black land for anybody around the world, and that's something that people need to understand. And that was changed through American occupation so forth and so on. And politics happened, right? But, once you start to educate young people and people in general about the significances of islands and countries and what they mean and how they helped all the Central American countries gain their independence as well, I think it changes the narrative. And then people start to say, okay, I had no idea, because when we first started going to Haiti, one of my good friends who's a teacher, he said, I'm bringing a bathing suit to Haiti. So people looked at him and said, they got beaches in Haiti? And it's like, okay, well, Haiti's an island,
Yeah, it should have island.
so it has
Yeah.
beaches,
Yeah.
but people don't see that. They see poverty on television and they see the drama that's being spewed in the media, and that's all they think.
Yeah. With that being said, we had an amazing time. We loved the interview. I enjoyed all your responses, and we thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
we
for having
we
me.
thank you for your time. Yeah, we thank you.